Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday, the 30th of April. I nearly said Wednesday. Looking too far ahead. But no need to look too far into 2 weeks. I've got plenty to keep us entertained over the next probably half an hour or so. I want to get your takes on everything that I discussed, but primarily around the future of Mohamed Salah. So we did a good old chat on this on the podcast. You know, obviously I had a little bit of a spat with Jurgen Klopp. That was seemingly kind of like he poured cold water on that from Klopp's perspective, whereas Salah tried to put fire on fire. And then there's been a report from David Ornstein that came out yesterday, or, I mentioned from him that he wants to stay at Liverpool. His interest is cooled in Saudi, and, Liverpool might give him a new contract. So I want to have this discussion with you guys and get your thoughts on this, and weigh it up as best as we possibly can. And what are the pros and cons of giving Mohamed Salah an extended deal, really? But before we do that, there's a bunch of other bits and pieces that I want to go through. So we got just some general news. There's a little bit of transfer news as well. And then we'll crack on with the Mo Salah stuff. So keep your powder dry on that. But when I start talking about a Feyenoord defender, when I'm finished with that, I'm moving on to Mo Salah. So have a little think about the Salah stuff. What do you think Liverpool should do? And then, we'll come to that in a minute. Right. First and foremost, just some little bits of housekeeping. This via the Liverpool Echo. Liverpool confirm a new AXA agreement worth more than 20 million as fresh training ground plans emerge. This by Paul Gorst. Liverpool have signed an extension with training ground sponsors AXA to take their partnership up to 2029. The Reds added the French insurance firm to their portfolio sponsors in 2018 and inked terms to have naming rights on the club's 50 million training base that was officially opened in Kirkby in November 2020. Liverpool only strengthened ties with the company since then, and a 4-year deal starts from 2025 with additional privileges set to be granted for the insurers around the club itself. AXA also sponsored the women's base at the iconic Melwood site in West Derby. Will now work more closely with both the men's and women's teams on the pitches of their respective training grounds going forward. Liverpool will have banked 20 million by the end of their current terms next summer, and the new deal will see an improvement on the 5 million a year agreement that was struck when naming rights were given 4 years ago. Ben Latty, commercial director at Liverpool, says partnering with global brands and developing long-term meaningful relationships is a vital part of our commercial strategy. Naming rights of our state-of-the-art facilities, presence on training kits have been instrumental in our success. Yeah, everyone trains harder for having a sleeve sponsor, definitely. It's great news for AXA to announce an extension, all this kind of good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Look, the thing that most of us will be interested in is the long and short of it is if it's more money for Liverpool, that's more money for Liverpool. What you always like to see is sponsorship deals going up. Now, they should, if nothing else, because, hey, inflation and football inflation more than anything else means, the cost of things absolutely goes through the roof. Player transfers and wages primarily, of course. But it is interesting that they're able to secure this, because we've seen this happen in the past, and obviously with Jurgen Klopp's tenure coming to an end, there might be some interesting conversations happening around the club with brands going, well, we don't really know what the future looks like for you guys. You've been at the top of the game for a number of years. We've had great value, but if Jurgen Klopp's leaving, what does the future hold for the football club? So actually getting one of when you consider what are the main sponsors for Liverpool, it's obviously your kit manufacturer being Nike at the moment, and there's obviously rumours that Liverpool are going to move to Adidas at the end of next season, which is an interesting step. Standard Chartered and AXA, they're probably the main ones. So you want to keep long-term relationships and get more money out of it as it goes. So yeah, look, not a huge thing, but if it's more than 5 million a year, then great, sound. Okay, move things on. This one, I saw a great reaction to this last night, and again, I'll be interested to see if you guys share it. I got this via This Is Anfield, but yeah, it was doing the rounds on socials yesterday. The Liverpool documentary. So the documentary that's being filmed of Jurgen Klopp's departure has still not been picked up despite 10 million Disney Plus interest. As Liverpool's this written by Jack Lusby for thisanfield.com. As Liverpool's once promising season unravels at its end, it may be welcome news to fans that the club's behind-the-scenes documentary is yet to be picked up. Filming for Liverpool's addition to the growing collection of fly-on-the-wall documentaries within football began in December and was officially announced in January. That coincided with the news of Klopp's resignation, with the initial reception of a documentary series of his final months in charge hugely positive, but with the challenge for 4 trophies crumbling amid a frustrating run-in, knocked out the Europa League and FA Cup, unlikely to win the Premier League, there have been calls from fans to scrap it entirely. While that will not happen, The Athletic's Tom Burrows reports that despite ongoing talks with streaming services, no deal has been struck for its broadcast. He writes, the programme is expected to generate an 8-figure sum for the club, with Disney Plus considered the early favourites, but nothing concrete has materialised. It was previously reported that Liverpool was seeking the region of £10 million for the rights to the documentary, which is being produced by Lawton Entertainment. Plan is to air in August, ahead of the new campaign, with Liverpool's Senior Vice President of Digital, Drew Crisp, viewing it as a way to boost their huge global reach. I mean, most of us have probably seen Welcome to Wrexham at this point, right? And obviously, everyone loves a good... documentaries are fine. I think about documentaries, they don't have to have happy endings, because that's kind of the point, right? But there's something about sports where we're conditioned to like a sports movie, the underdogs, and they come good, and you've got your big sort of party celebration moments at the end, like that. Like ultimately, Welcome to Wrexham, Ben Foster plays a huge part in that. Brilliant stuff, absolutely, cinematically wonderful stuff, and it did feel like this was going to be great. I've seen this film crew out and about on the European aways as well, capturing stuff, and it would be a real shame for the normal Liverpool fans who've been involved in this, and this could be like a really cool opportunity for them. But I mean, honestly, one of the mission statements of Redmen over the last 14 years has been try your best to make content for Liverpool fans. And what I mean by that is loads of fan channels and fan media and just media companies in general who make stuff for banter fuel, and make stuff that, that allows people to point and laugh at the football club too much. So whether it's like lunatics outside football grounds and listen, hey, we've made that mistake in the past, and hopefully learn from it. There's something about this, and it was a bit like the Being Liverpool one was a bit crap. It threw Brendan Rodgers under the bus from day one. Now, this at least can't be that, because it should finish before Arne Slot comes in, so hopefully he'll have nothing to do with it. But it's something that might end up, I don't know, tarnishing the reputation of Jurgen Klopp. And again, if it's just something, all I can think of is, if it's just something where Liverpool all fall apart and you get to see it fall apart for Liverpool, I don't really want to watch that. I find that a bit miserable. So if it's not for Liverpool fans, who's it for? Is it for people to steal clips and make a bell end of the football club online, like the Mikel Arteta playing You'll Never Walk Alone thing from the All or Nothing? It's an odd one. It's an odd one for me. Real shame. It's a great shout. Daniel was buying and chucking on Redmen Plus. Listen, okay, well, I'll make a deal with you. I don't know how many people would have to sign up for us to be able to afford £10 million. But look, okay. If let's say we got 500,000 subscribers, if every subscriber paid 20 quid, is that right? Would that get us to £10 million? Someone tell me that that's right or not. Anyway, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. If every one of you who watches this over the course of this video's lifetime, which should be at least 10,000 people, if you could all subscribe to redmenplus.com, if we have 10,000 sign-ups in the next 2 days, I'll put a bid in for this documentary. How's that? That sounds fair, right? But real pity, because obviously you've got like the emotional side of Klopp making his decision to leave and all the fallout from that. Carabao Cup, great, and some interesting European trips, and then, it's all right. Jody says, if it happens, mate, you've got to do it. Honestly, like if we got 10,000 people signing up for Redmen Plus, I mean, that would alone, it would still... I think that would... No, it would still put us nowhere near what we need to be able to do it. But I'd put a bid in. I'm not saying I'd put a 10 million bid in. But everyone go and sign up to Redmen Plus anyway, because we're covered in Arne Slot stuff. Dan, we're reaching the threshold here where every time Dan is not within line of sight of me, I presume he's interviewing some expert around Arne Slot. This morning he spoke to a guy who played with him and coached alongside him as well, Azed Alkmaar. And he's also spoken to João Teixeira, former Liverpool midfielder, who played under him at Feyenoord, and a bunch of other coaches and Feyenoord fans and Dutch football experts and all kinds. Wow. Yes. Anyway, yeah, the easiest way for you guys to support what we do, anyway, is on redmenplus.com. Anyway, let's move things forward. On the subject of Arne Slot and on the subject of Feyenoord. So this is Anfield, but quite widely spread. Feyenoord defender Lucharel Geertruida, that's a mouthful, would love Liverpool transfer. Wouldn't we all, Lucharel? Wouldn't we all? However, let's read more before we totally and utterly dump on this one, particularly because I prepared a number of stats to talk about him. Final defender Lucharel Geertruida was in attendance for Liverpool's 2-2 draw at West Ham on Sunday and would love to follow Arne Slot to Anfield. Sources in the Netherlands claim Geertruida, who has worn the captain's armband for Slot's Feyenoord this season, is ready for a transfer. The Telegraph's Marcel van der Kraan reports that the 23-year-old trip to London Stadium, which came during time off from training with Feyenoord. Van der Kraan reports that Geertruida would love to join Slot in making the switch to Liverpool, while Feyenoord are already expecting his departure. Dutch club, who have agreed a compensation package to allow their manager to replace Klopp, know the defender wants to make a big step in his career. This is obviously quoting the journalist, not the player or the club necessarily. He will enter the final year of his contract this summer, and it is described as unthinkable for Feyenoord to allow him to depart on a free transfer. Interesting whether Liverpool will have that approach with another player that they've got with 1 year left on his contract. It means that unless the Netherlands international were to sign a new deal, Feyenoord would need to sell him in the next transfer window. A fee of €30 million, £25.7 million, was quoted to RB Leipzig last year, with this valuation held up if Liverpool were to make an approach. It remains to be seen whether there is interest from Merseyside, of course, or whether links with Geertruida are simply due to his relationship with Slot. And this is an interesting point on this. While Slot will be consulted on future signings, it's been patently clear that the 45-year-old will arrive as head coach rather than a manager, with recruitment in the hands of sporting director Richard Hughes. He could be an attractive prospect for Liverpool nonetheless, given his age, potential, experience and versatility. So I want to talk to that very briefly. I've got no idea whether he's ultimately good enough. And look, anyone who's been banging the whole, we've just gone and got another Erik ten Hag, won't be massively encouraged by his first signing coming from the Dutch league. That will feel like familiar paths trodden. However, I mean, I don't know where, someone can tell me, I could Google it, but I can't be asked. Where was Lisandro Martinez from? Was he playing in the Dutch league? Either way, the big concern about Lisandro Martinez is he is this big. Now, I have checked, and Geertruida is somewhere between 6 foot and 6'1", closer to 6'1", which for a defender is fine. I think that's like, with obvious exceptions, before everyone throws the Fabio Cannavaro, Carlos Puyol shouts into the comments, I'm well aware that Javier Mascherano at Barcelona, you can be under 6 foot and be a really good centre half, just not in the Premier League. So you need to be a bare minimum of 6 foot, I think, to play centre half. Now, he does play across the back line. Now, interesting is in the eye of the beholder or listener or whatever. But I was having a little look at him now. His scouting report on FBref doesn't read like a defender. It reads like a attacking midfielder. So I'll qualify all of this, as I often have to do with the Dutch league. These percentile stats for him, so like non-penalty goals, non-penalty XG, shots total, etc., are compared to positional peers in the men's next 14 competitions. So not the big 6 or the big 5, which would obviously include the Premier League and the Bundesliga, Serie A, Primera Liga, and I think Liga is in there as well. So yeah, he's being compared to players like, as an example, the next 14 includes MLS is in that clutch. That's a lot of leagues, obviously in the Brazilian league as well. So yeah, take this with a bit of a pinch of salt, because he wouldn't necessarily stack up alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold as an example. But really interesting, this guy doesn't rank great for tackles, interceptions, blocks, clearances or aerials, but actually is an absolutely unbelievable attacking player. And if you compare him as a centre half, it's like he's in like the 95th to 99th percentile for everything that comes to like the playing of football, like having the football skills. So it's he's an interesting proposition, if nothing else. I'll just move on in terms of another couple of things that I've picked up on him. Couple as mentioned already there, he's about 6'1". He's only 23 years old. He turns 24 over the summer, which puts him in the ideal sort of age bracket for Liverpool, and what they've been looking at. He only missed one game through inavailability this season, and that was in the Europa League intermediate stage first leg against Roma because he had the flu. So no actual injuries keeping him out of availability this season, which I think is a very encouraging thing. As mentioned by this Anfield article, he's worn the captain's armband loads this season. I mean, particularly towards the back end of late, he had a really good stretch as the team captain. Now, I don't know enough about Feyenoord, so I reckon someone will be able to tell me in the comments that I guess that makes him probably like vice, and I guess that's an availability thing. Someone else is coming back in the team who takes the armband for those other games. But I would see that as an encouraging note. In terms of where he's played then this season, 32 appearances at right back, 9 at centre back, and 3 at left back. So when I was looking, I wanted to have a look at his heat maps as well, and I'll get an example up in a second. But I was trying to find an example of how he plays at centre half, because he plays loads at right back. So it's dead easy to find examples of him playing at right back. So the most recent game to beat Go Ahead Eagles 3-1 recently, and he played right back in that one. And you can see from his heat map, well, you would be able to see from his heat map if my big fat head wasn't there. Thanks, Joe. That's very Trent Alexander-Arnold-y in terms of positions that he'll take up. You see the little splodge inside, sort of right midfield. That speaks attacking, flying fullback, but actually the bit is sort of in the centre of midfield, sort of like a right-sided 6, has real inversion sort of look. And I've not seen him play, I've not seen Feyenoord play, but actually just from looking at those positions, that's what it tells me. It tells me of a guy who they will move into positions to get onto the football, which is an encouraging thing, if nothing else. I will just quickly show you if I can find. There was another example where they played Ajax, and I wanted to look. They beat Ajax 6-0 quite recently, and obviously Ajax have been absolutely garbage this season. But he played left back in this game and captained the team, and actually from left back, much more of a traditional attacking left back thing. Most of his touches predominantly down that left hand side. So again, that's another really interesting note. He doesn't become like a super defensive player, but actually becomes a bit more of a functional up and down fullback in that environment. And then one last one, which is going to take me a moment to find because it was a little bit further back in the season. He's not really done centre back since the start of the campaign. But they played a little group of games. I think it's this game against Vitesse. Bear with me. They played Vitesse Arnhem, won 4-0. He scored in the game as well from centre back. Played right side of the back four. And look at this. Look at that for a heat map. Like that again. That's how City defenders play. So he's taken up. In fact, I'll tell you what would be interesting. Does Bart Newcoop, does he do any of the invasion? So that the right back in that instance actually does more traditionally right backy stuff, but then Geertruid whatever comes in and plays actually much more midfield like in that, which is good. Yeah, really encouraging to see. Is he good enough? No idea. But if you were looking at buying someone, he says you can play right back, centre back, and left back. If you were going to replace Joel, if you're keeping Kanate and you're keeping the development of Jarell Quansah, but Matip's going, and you wanted to go and get another centre half, but you were concerned about where they're going to get the game time, having him and Joe Gomez just be the understudy fullbacks, or even if you wanted to finally switch to what we were talking about last summer, of you maintain Trent as an inverted, but your left-sided left back becomes more of a left-sided centre half, which is something that we haven't been able to do because we just haven't had that player this season. someone like him might be a decent thing. I think what Arsenal have wanted Jurriën Timber for, but of course we haven't been able to see it because he's been injured all season long. But interesting. I am a little worried, like it does set alarm bells when managers buy players from their previous football club or buy players from the division that they've just come with. But I would contend that the only way this would ever happen, it feels more like he's having a meeting with Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, and he's gone, Geert Riedel there is up, his contract's up. You can probably get him for 25 million. He'll play across the back four. He'll be a really useful player. I like him. What do you guys think? And Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes would get their scrolls out, slash laptops, and just go through their spreadsheet, type his name in, and it'll come up, and they'll have his data and his metrics, and they'll be able to understand. They'll know already whether he's good enough to play for Liverpool or not. Couple of interesting ones. There's one from LFC Marlow. Sounds like he's good at a lot of things, but a master of none, to be honest. Yeah, but you need that. You know, I don't think Liverpool are going to be in the market for another first choice £50 million centre half this summer, because there's other areas the money I think needs to be spent. So if you can go and get between Van Dijk, Quansah, Konate, and Gomez, you're pretty covered for centre half. If you then get another one who can do some stuff at fullback as well, then maybe you let Tsimikas go, because you've then got enough. I'm speculating. I'm purely speculating. But yeah, seems like a DM, says Freedom Journey. But that's, yeah, again, in offensive attacking systems, you want people who change how you play. You know, effectively you line up as a defender, but then if you can go and do a bit, like Gomez has done a lot of good stuff for us this season, but you could see when he moved into DM that he's very good on the ball for a centre half, and he's pretty damn good for a fullback. But actually, when you put into the centre of the pitch, that's a shot of Hugh Jacks. So yeah, interesting stuff nevertheless. I'm just going to actually have a little quick look before I crack on with the Salah stuff. At Joe Gomez's for a matter of interest. Actually, no, because it's going to take me 4 years to do that. Let's just crack on with Mo Salah stuff, shall we? I promised it. Let's do it. So yeah, we saw a little bit of a touchline bust up between Salah and Klopp, which, you know, again, two highly competitive people getting into it. Klopp said it's been put to bed already. Salah muttered something about fire, but he accelerated not quite as fast as years gone by through the mix zone. Ornstein was saying that it looks like he wants to stay and Liverpool will consider giving him a contract extension. So obviously I want to have a little bit of a chat around that. This is actually an article by Dave Lynch over on This Is Anfield. What Mo Salah wants from new contract and why Liverpool may still wait. So I would highly recommend going out and having a little read through this, of course. But obviously he mentions the fact that Liverpool received £150 million worth of bids last summer. He has got a year left on his contract, and This Is Anfield understands that the current expectation within the club is that Salah will stay put to help kickstart the Arne Slot era. Any concerns that last weekend's heated touchline spot with Jurgen Klopp might have changed things wide of the mark, particularly as the German is departing this summer anyway. This is what Salah wants and Liverpool's stance. It would be unwise to suggest an extended stay is entirely set in stone, not least because of the many variables outside Liverpool's control that will come into play. The first is that Salah is understood to want a contract extension of at least a year, which, considering his £350,000 per week wages and the hints of decline seen in recent weeks, is far from a formality. For their part, Liverpool opens the idea of waiting another year and letting a player who served them so well depart on a free transfer, as has been the case for a number of stellar servants down the years. Yet if a new deal isn't forthcoming, you wonder whether Salah might wish to leverage his as yet undiminished standing to seek greater contractual certainty elsewhere. Lovely use of the English language from Lynchy there. There is no question the 31-year-old is keen to continue playing at the highest level for as long as possible and considered himself more than capable of doing so. But it will be interesting to see whether that resolve is tested once again by promises of untold riches in the Saudi Pro League. It felt notable that, having initially ruled out a move on social media, Salah's famously vocal agent, Rami Abbas Issa, went quiet as the sums being offered by the Saudis ramped up toward the end of last summer's window. And if the public investment fund's commitment to overseeing a football revolution in the Middle East remains, then they will surely be back again to try and capture the sports leading Arab star this year. As such, it would be unwise to take Liverpool's confidence regarding Salah as the final word on his future. Now, we've seen this obviously with a number of players. I think Liverpool were pretty certain that Jordan Henderson will be a Liverpool player this season. Man City were pretty certain that Riyad Mahrez would be a Man City player this current season, and both had their heads turned by the ideas of the riches and what have you, and chose to move. So it can happen, and look, the amount of money that Salah's going to be offered, he is going to go and be the absolute star, and I think we'll see significant pushes from the PIF clubs in the Saudi Pro League for Salah and for Kevin De Bruyne. They are the two highest targets on the hit list right now. So I wouldn't shock me if both were heavily targeted. And what Liverpool do is going to be interesting in this one. For me, what Liverpool should be doing, and I think they should be considering moving him on this summer, and not because of any emotional sort of reason. I think if you keep emotion in it, I think what he's done for Liverpool and the belief that he can still continue to do for a couple of years is very, very strong indeed, and that I don't think that can be totally ignored. But I've seen his stats are going to be interesting in this one, and we've got it more now than ever before. We will have an analytically driven approach to transfers. Not that we haven't had that for a number of years, by the way, but what we had was a lot of friction between the manager and the assistant manager and the directors of football over contract extensions and what have you. And Klopp reportedly annoyed that Gini Wijnaldum couldn't stick around for tooth and nail to get a contract extension for Jordan Henderson. And then obviously we saw Gini leave on a free transfer. Mane went for a much lower fee than he was probably worth because his contract was in that precarious situation. And that's the situation that Liverpool I don't think will want, because, you'll want to cash in where you can. If it's a self-sustaining model, which is what it's been, then you need to raise players' profiles up to a certain level and then sell them for stupid money and then go and buy 4 or 5 more of that guy. And then every few years you sell one, and you sell one by 4, sell one by 3, sell one by 2. And so your net growth is where it's at, and you're overall improving the quality of your squad and bringing fresh legs, fresh impetus, youthful exuberance and all that kind of stuff, new skills into your squad. So yeah, Liverpool are in a really tricky situation with the Salah stuff, because for the first time in his Liverpool career, there's doubt over his ability to be at that highest level. Now, even the greatest of players go through bad spells. They absolutely do. And the truly great ones bounce back from it. Chris referenced Virgil van Dijk on the podcast yesterday, which is a great shout. Obviously had a tricky season last year. It's come back even better this year on the back of a season where he was flogged a bit on the back of a cruciate knee injury. Incredible. So it's very possible that this is just a variety of factors. AFCON plus actually suffering injury for the first time, plus a little bit of, I don't know, the manager's on the way, maybe some other external factors or something, I don't really know. But you can also look at someone like Fabinho, for whom I think most of us would have kept Fabinho around for another season. Not necessarily as the main man, but if we've gone and bought Caicedo and you keep Fabinho, then your defensive midfield position is so locked down, it's absolutely unbelievable. But instead, Liverpool got a 40 million offer for Fabinho and went. There was no, like with Jordan Henderson, like fighting tooth and nail, taking him on pre-season training to try and convince him to stay, arguing over the fee night and day for weeks to try and slow it down and convince him to stay. Fabinho, they went, yeah, that'll do, because they saw that the cliff was coming. And it's also worth seeing, look at the players who have moved on from the football club. Who was the last player who left Liverpool and actually got better? I think you're going back, I want to say Sterling. I mean, you could maybe say like Dominic Solanke, but what I mean by that is someone who was a first team, nailed on first team footballer who went on and did and improved. Sterling and Suarez are the ones that stand to mind for me, and neither of them were under Jurgen Klopp. Often Liverpool have been pretty good at squeezing every last drop of top level juice out of a footy player, and then managing to move them on. What they haven't done very well is get money for them when they've left. Firmino leaving on a free, Wijnaldum leaving on a free, Mane leaving for what was it, 2030, when a year early you'd have probably got 70 million for him. Interesting points, nevertheless. But yeah, let me know. What do you do on this one? Do you offer him a year extension? Do you offer him a longer extension? Do you let him run his contract down? Or do you just straight up move heaven and earth to sell him this summer? I am reasonably calm about the whole thing because I think the contract thing makes sense. If you give him a new contract, then at least you just get to kick the problem down the road a little bit longer. The Saudi money will, unless his injury record is horrendous. And bear in mind, Neymar's injury record was pretty poor. So it might not be that too damaging a factor, but a good chunk of Saudi money would be there for him again in a year's time. I think Salah will want another run at the Champions League, having helped to get Liverpool back into the Champions League. I'm sure he'll want to go and have another go at it, because once you leave the Champions League, I don't think you come back to it. Is a slight issue on that one. So yeah, it is definitely a difficult one. Let me have a look at the comments and see what we got here. Any slot, it's the Muppets version. Definitely don't let him run his deal down. That makes no sense. Road Trip Connoisseur says 1 year max, but I prefer to sell and rebuild. Kev O'Sullivan there answering the question. Suarez, very rare someone leaves now and they kick on. Yeah, absolutely. Harold here says sell for 100 million, more in the budget and freeing up wage budget for new players. There's also the thing that it allows you to, at some point you're going to have to make Trent Alexander-Arnold your highest paid player because he's going to be your best player and he's got the most years left to go. This season coming, he's going to, his next contract is going to put him in that bracket of the world's top players, therefore the sort of top earners, and I wouldn't want to run the risk of damaging our ability to deliver that. Can Liverpool can afford to have two players on 350 grand a week? That's an interesting question on that. Basically, Vader has got it maybe most nicely summed up. If we sell him, that's fine. If we keep him, that's also fine. That's kind of where I'm at with that too. Benjamin just says I would love to see Salah stay. Yeah, if he stays, he'll be fine. It's just whether he's. Look, we've got. In fact, you can't see him. I've got a giant picture of Steven Gerrard next to me, but I'm pointing to for no reason because you can't even see my hand. Look at that! There we go. what a guy! Thanks, Joe. Steven Gerrard. We had a similar issue with him that he was the highest wage earner at the football club. Was being paid as Liverpool's best player, but was no longer Liverpool's best player and was no longer even guaranteed a place in the starting 11. He was being faded out, and he didn't do that very gracefully, and it didn't sit very well psychologically with him either. And that's the thing with Mo Salah. And maybe look, this is going to be an Arne Slot conversation because all the word I'm hearing about how he plays is that he loves wingers and he'll throw 60 minutes of them at a football match, go and empty the tank, and then I'll bring some more wingers on. Wingers, go. And has Salah got the ability to do that? Oh, listen, would he like to just be the elder statesman winger of Liverpool's squad where it's a slightly different way of doing it, but he's still got pace. He's not like electric like he was, but he's not slow, and he can still functionally do it. But he's doing 60 minutes here and 2 60-minute performances a week. He still gets to be in there, still gets to score the goals, still gets to be the main man. Like City do that with Erling Haaland, don't they? They don't play him 90 minutes. When his job's done and his race is run, they take him off. So there's a possibility. But will he... That's how you sell it to a footballer. Instead of being your game faded out because you're not good enough anymore, is not how you sell it to guys who believe themselves to be superstars. So yeah, that will be that is one of the big challenges around that, facing the new manager. Absolutely. I would keep Timothy Parish, I apologise. That's someone else. I would keep, just in case Slot can figure out what to do with Salah. Look, yeah, I mean, look, you want to, he's a 30 goal a season player. You'd want to have the option of that around. But the big fear is the Cristiano Ronaldo effect of a new manager coming in. Does he have the power to come in and let this go? But also, I suppose you've got this whole head coach thing where it's actually not Slot's job to deal with whether Salah stays or goes. If he wants him and the analytics department feel there's still more in the tank for Salah, then they'll find a way to keep him. If they think that the crossover point between his ability crossing over and falling down, and also, value rising and falling, whatever, they might just pull the trigger on it. Stargirl. Presumably a big there, DC Comics or McFly fan. Before AFCON, this wouldn't be an issue as he was brilliant and probably the best player in the league. Give him an extension. The guy's fit, shredded. Ronaldo's in his late 30s and still worth 100k plus. Yeah, and I think that's, I can't, there's no facts to disagree with that as such. I don't think he's actually had a great season performance-wise, to be perfectly honest. And there was an interesting point made by Paul Tompkins. I'm going to verify this before I say it, about where Salah's goals have come from this season. Because as much as he is hitting the net, he does take penalties, which always adds, I won't say it pads your stats, because you've got to have the bollocks to step up and take and score pens, haven't you? So there's a contributing factor. You wouldn't give your penalties to your centre half to get him to 10 goals in a season. Is kind of what I'm saying. You've got to be worthy of that. So goals minus penalty kicks. There we go. Non-penalty goals. There you go. That's an interesting stat. So Mohamed Salah, without penalty goals, has scored as many goals as Darwin Núñez this season, and only 2 more goals than Diogo Jota, and only 3 more than Cody Gakpo. Now, obviously, no. In fact, I'm not even going to add to that. That's food for thought. I have that in your heads. There's a little fact for you. Baked says, thank God Mo's staying. We need to get the frauds Diaz and Núñez sold. Núñez, big chances missed, unacceptable, and Diaz 16 goals from 64, not LFC material. I mean, this fraud thing is fucking horseshit, isn't it? I mean, what are we doing calling Liverpool players who've gone out and scored? Hey, Darwin Núñez, exactly the same amount of non-penalty goals as Mohamed Salah. And Luis Diaz, who, yeah, I don't think he's a 1 in 2, even, and certainly nowhere near a 1 in 1 goal scorer. He's more like a 1 in 3, and that's not what Liverpool need unless you've got a 1 in 1 and a better than 1 in 2 foil alongside him. And we should have that in Núñez and Salah. And when it was working, we definitely had that. I think Diaz is brilliant. I think he's absolutely fantastic. So he's the one. He's got something that we don't have in our forward line. He's got the pace. He's got the incredible close control. He makes things happen out of nothing. He's got the ability to change the landscape of a football match, and he does get into a lot of the right positions. I just don't think he's a great natural sort of finisher. But I think there's more and better in him, and he's also a prime age footy player as well. Darwin Núñez, every other week I think he's either the best thing I've ever seen or the worst thing I've ever seen. I was very convinced by him about 6 weeks ago, prior to Salah coming back from injury. I thought there we go, we've got the best Darwin Núñez here, and he was absolutely flying. I mean, in terms of goals and assists, including penalties, 31 goal contributions from Darwin Núñez across the season is damn good. 18 goals and 13 assists, same amount of assists as Mohamed Salah, and Salah's normally our top or joint top assister in the season with Trent, and Trent's just behind there on 10 at the moment, actually. So yeah, look, it's a better season for Darwin Núñez, but it's by no means the season that we want or really need if we're going to be that truly elite football team. So yeah, but there's conversation to be had. I'm not so wedded to either of them that I would not die on a hill for either of those footballers. I'd be probably, but I would certainly, I could make a strong case for both of them. They're both young enough to improve. and they've both got pace. And they're both really, really intense players as well, which I think the new manager will like. But yeah, Liverpool might need to go out and buy someone who's just a bit more clinical in front of goal. Jota, but without injury problems, would be lovely. Right, okay. Listen, loads on Liverpool's new manager, Arne Slot. All across Redmen Plus at the moment. We've got an amazing code. Half price, redmenplus.com for an entire year. If you use the code SLOT, S-L-O-T, which is a captain yearly tier membership. So you get a full year of what we're doing, 50% off. It's a ridiculously big and good offer. Just box it, sort it, leave it there. Enjoy all of our summer content. Get closer, a greater level of understanding what Liverpool's new manager is, what he's going to be bringing to the table tactically and personality wise as a coach, all those things. Our expert insights, they are all over the place. Chris is doing a deep dive as well, and there's been deep dive content on him already. Fill your boots, redmenplus.com, use the code SLOT, and I'll see you over there. If everyone who watches this video does that, we will bid for the Liverpool documentary. There we go, deal. Yeah? See you soon. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the content today. If you want to get your name in and amongst these wonderful people, then head to redmenplus.com. Join as a legend tier subscriber. You're going to get free merchandise codes. You're going to get in our Discord, and you're going to get your name at the end of YouTube videos. Yes, redmenplus.com, legend tier status.